Evaluating composite functions. Once we compose a new function from two existing functions, we need to be able to evaluate it for any input in its domain. We will do this with specific numerical inputs for functions expressed as tables, graphs, and formulas. In each case, we evaluate the inner function using the starting input and then using the inner function's output as the input for the outer function. Now, evaluating composite functions using tables. When working with functions given as tables, we read input and output values from the table entries and always work from the inside to the outside. We evaluate the inside function first and then use the output of the inside function as the input to the outside function. Now, example number 5, we're going to use a table to evaluate a composite function. Using table 1, we're going to evaluate f of g of 3, and then the second one we're going to evaluate g of f of 3. So let's evaluate the table and let's take a look at what the table states. The first column is x, and this is your input. So let's keep in mind, what is the input? Okay, now the second column is the output for f of x. And the third column is the output for g of x. Okay? So, if we want to first determine the first part here, which is evaluate f of g of 3, we first need to figure out what is this input, g of 3. So to find g of 3, we need to determine, okay, what is the input on the inside? Well, the input is 3. And the input of 3 on the function g of x. So that means, what is the output when the input is 3 on g of x? Well, we go down over here and we can see that the input is 2. Now, 2 becomes the input for f. So now we're going to go back to the input column and look at the input of 2. And now we need to look at the output for f of x. So the output of the input 2 on f is the value 8, and that's how we get the answer 8. Now, in words, to evaluate f of g of 3, again, we start from the inside with the input value of 3. We then evaluate this inside expression g of 3 using a table that defines the function. So we got g of 3, which is equal to 2. We then use that result as the input to the function f. So now g of 3 is replaced by the number 2, and we get f of 2. And notice that f of 2 gives us an output of 8. Next, we want to find g of f of 3. So the input is the function f of 3. So that means when the input for x is 3, what is the output on f? Well, the output is 3. So that means now we have g of 3. So g of 3 tells us that the input is 3, but on the function g of x, what is the output when the input is 3? Well, the answer is 2. Now, to evaluate g of f of 3, we first evaluated the inside expression f of 3, where the input was 3, and we got an output of 3. And then using the table for g, we can then evaluate g of 3, which is equal to 2. Now, table 2 shows the composite functions of f composite g and g composite f as tables. We can see that when the input was 3, g of x was 2. F of g of x became 8, f of x was 3, and g of f of x became 2.